Interrupting all our fun with Kyle, our cameraman. We're going to have to do talking horses now, and Matthew DeSantis is joining me today. Thank you for filling in, Matthew.
Absolutely.
A little late notice here on Talking Horses. Kyle's a Nick fan. They're up 2-1, but he feels like they're down 3-0. Anyhow, we've got a lot to talk about. 9-race card today. We will get to work on that. A lot to talk about, so let's head over to Naira Bets. Use the promo code Derby25. They are drawing the Derby tonight between the third and fourth races, 7:15 to 7:45. They're drawing the Oaks and Derby. Those cards, though, I think are going to be drawn during the day, so hopefully they should be posted without the Derby and Oaks earlier. A lot of stakes on those cards as well. But you get a free $25 Derby bet as well as a $200 sign-up bonus. Derby 25, excuse me. You can check out Matthew. What is it, Matt or Matthew?
I'll go by either, but I like Matthew.
Okay, we'll go with Matthew then. You're allowed to choose which one you like. We'll go with Matthew's track stats. After you sign up, you can go there even if you haven't signed up, or you did sign up, or you want to sign up. Check out track stats. We also have, this is Eddie's favorite thing, the middle pick 4. No day is complete without a middle pick 4, 9-race card. Races 2, 3, and 6 for the pick 4s on today's card. Sure brought some water with me. Obviously, a $2,500 hit and split in the late pick 5 here at the Big A. Opt in over at Naira Bets as well for that. Contest is back today too, by the way. You'll have until the third race to sign up. Go to naira.com/contest for that. What else? The show. It starts at 2 and it just keeps on going. Just goes and goes and goes. 7 o'clock, 2 to 7, covering the action here and Oaklawn as well through race 10 at Oaklawn. Race number 1, my top choice scratched out of this race, and Practical Miss, we can show the replay of her finishing, where was she finishing? Second, with Montauk Mystique, who's the 4 in here, finishing 3rd in the slop. She's going to be an overwhelming favorite, and she's probably going to win, Matthew.
Yeah, the scratch of the 5 definitely impacted things. She's my top pick in this race, but obviously 0 for 7 at this point. But you figure the way that this race is playing out, there's not a significant amount of speed. She should be pretty forward and not be that
She's supposed to be in front. It would be crazy if Kendrick wasn't in front, right?
I would imagine that as well. So I just figure she's going to get the right trip. 4 to 5 is certainly a low price, but I don't blame somebody for trying to find an alternative to her in this particular spot. But I ultimately just could not really get around her in this place.
No, she's a very likely winner of this race, and I've just got a little off the reservation because I couldn't stomach the idea of putting her on top. She's had a lot of chances, but the truth is she's found the right field. I've taken a horse that I have no problem with somebody saying, I'm not betting on your idiotic horse, Andy, that horse is way too slow, because in fact she is too slow. But what she is doing is switching to Antonio Arriaga's barn. And Antonio Arriaga is a trainer I've always respected around here. He's done well with the horses he's taken over. I would assume he's had this horse for a little while, so I'm going to take a shot with a trainer move up with long shot rider Romero Mirage, the handsomer Mirage, riding Bobby Dreams, and I'm just going to take a long shot because I cannot bring myself to pick the 2 at what's going to be a short price, though I agree with you. She's way the horse to beat. Yeah. Speaking of horses that are tough to bring yourself to pick, I picked one in race number 2. I don't know where you went in here, but I went to the 3 Agility, and we'll take a look at him blowing second last time out. And what I will say about him losing second was the horse that was stalking him the whole way, Pineapple Man, is a superior horse. So I think even with all his ridiculous character flaws, of which he seems to have many, and this is a very painful race for me because I think Exacta was paying some huge amount, and I had a nice Exacta with him folding second, and the other horse just sucked up and caught him at the wire, the last step to get it. But I think the fact that Pineapple Man sort of broke him top of the stretch cost him second, and if Pineapple Man, who would be 1 to 9 in this race, isn't in there, he probably wins, but he is 1 for 19, and he's been short priced in a lot of races, so I can't knock him picking against him, but I'm not that guy.
Yeah, this is a challenging race because I don't think there's a lot of pace necessarily. I would imagine it's just going to be the 3 and the 4 up in the front.
This is a challenging race. What'd you do with the 7th race today?
We'll get to that later.
This is a race of minimal contenders, including your top choice, so we'll show, and I'll let you talk about. You better be joking. This is his last race.
Yeah, my biggest concern, and obviously made up a ton of ground late in this particular race, but my concern with this horse is does like to come from off the pace. I don't think there's going to be a significant amount of pace pressure up front. And so I do wonder just the trip that was going to work out here. Now, I do think it's a smaller field. Maybe the field's a little bit more condensed. Again, to get Kendrick aboard, I'd imagine Kendrick will try to get this horse to show maybe a little bit more gate speed. I know that, which is my concern. But, in this race, I didn't feel like there were a ton of great options necessarily for a top pick. I ultimately landed on You Better Be Joking at 8-5 for Linda Rice. I'm using a horse that likes to come from off the pace. If you can try to replicate that race back in late February, maybe, where the horse sat a little bit closer than normal, going a mile. Granted, this is a cutback.
Where he finished behind Love Cara.
Yeah, I know.
Good luck to him.
I'm just saying that sort of trip, but I'm hopefully not that same finish.
Yeah, that was a pretty tepid pace going a mile, and this is 6 furlongs.
Right.
And agility has legitimate speed. Yeah. And Cam Duke isn't that slow either, so I don't see this horse being forward at all in here. But you have Cam Duke over agility. You figure he'll stalk him and beat him?
I do. This is a horse, maybe I've been trying to chase this horse for a little while.
How's that going for you?
Not very good, 1 for 15. So I could be doing better. But this horse has been training really forwardly for Jimmy Ryerson, and again has good pace, good early pace. I think can stalk and track, and coming off the layoff might be a little fresh and gives you maybe a little bit of value.
He is fresh coming in here, and Jimmy's been having a very, very good run. It's nice to see Jimmy doing so well. Race number 3 at 1 1/8. I found this race to be an enormous headache. I'm going to start by showing the horse you have on top, Seeking Unity, losing last time, and I do think he probably ran the best race last time. I'll let you talk about him.
Yeah, to your point, really the only horse that was up there on the front end that stayed on. You saw a lot of the other horses kind of fading back and just got nailed in the shadow of the wire there by a horse coming from all the way off the pace. And I just think at 1 1/8, this horse seems to have the right sort of setup. There's not a lot of pace, I don't think, in this race. This horse can stalk that pace and track, and I think has the ability to get the job done at 7-2 on the morning line. Gives you a little bit of value in this particular spot.
The horse that he's stalking, though, Night Effect, is a horse who can win this race. And honestly, I have trouble making the 1 and 3 in here. After that, I won't be surprised to see anybody win. If Memphis wins, I'm going to lose. Though Memphis does pick up Irad Ortiz. Nice to see Irad back. First time Irad's been riding in New York. He's here today, and I think tomorrow as well. I guess with that late card at Churchill Downs, we'll see him here, and I'm sure he's heading over to Churchill for next week. But good to see Irad back. He'll take money, and it is pretty substantial rider change. The problem is, unless Irad comes back with a big jet pack, I'm not sure how he's getting this guy home, but he is Irad. You never really know. I thought Night Effect could maybe soften him up a little bit. I don't have a big problem with Proven Hope. I think all these horses can win this race. I don't really think there's a big difference. I guess my feeling Reserve Currency, we watched the last race. And one thing I'll say about the last race, I know it's a non-winners of 2 and now moved to a non-winners of 3, a horse claimed away from Chad Brown. But having said that, this was a track that was extremely kind to speed. So yeah, the horse was a heavy favorite, but did beat the bias in closing. And Maginera came back, the horse who was second, and proved the buyer points 4 points. Another horse who was trying to close into it. I don't really worry about this horse in the distance. Has a very good effort going 1 mile and 3/16, albeit on the front end. But maybe he was a better horse back then. I don't know that this is one that's going to be a bad claim. I don't feel as though this was a total dump job by Chad Brown. I think it was just an acknowledgement that this horse wasn't going to win a non-winners of 1. Okay. And you've got to, at that point, run him in a tag. And I don't really think that Klarovich and Chad Brown, and I've never obviously discussed this horse with him. I wouldn't waste anybody's time. Is thinking about what are we going to do with Reserve Currency? How are we going to map out the rest of his career? Right. He ran him where he could win. He won by a nose in a 40 non-winners 2 lifetime. He ran exactly where he belonged, and Ray claimed him, and I'll take a shot with him. Yeah. But I don't have a lot of confidence in this race.
It makes sense. I mean, Ray's actually quite good at taking horses off the claim and actually moving them up into the starter allowance level. I think over the last 5 years, he's at 24% with that type of a move. So certainly going to a barn that has a lot of success with this type of an angle.
See what happens. Race number 4 kicks off the pick 6. No carryover in the pick 6 today. We're going to 6 furlongs on the turf. And let's start with the horse you have on top, Lady Mia. You like her? I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. The longer I looked at this race, maybe the less I started liking her. But the reality is she's going to probably be the speed with Irad aboard on the inside rail, or at least part of that early pace contention, along with the 2 and 7. But this is one for the Clement barn, who's obviously gotten off to a hot start and has had some success here on the turf already in the limited number of races we've had. I just think with Irad aboard, this horse has some class to go back to. Certainly coming off the bench is a little bit of a question mark. Has only had 3 official workouts leading up to this debut. So understandable if you want to move in a different direction, but ultimately kind of landed on potentially the speed in this race.
She may be the speed, and she's got the rail, and Irad has little choice but to go, so I imagine that he will. I don't think she's much horse. I thought that last race was A, a very weak field, but also B, a super soft pace that she was able to set. So she's basically able to run off consecutive 23 and slight change quarters in there. And maybe she'll do it here, but I think the likes of Carey and Master of the Tunes are better horses. I'm not a big fan of her, and as always, when I see Irad Ortiz on horses, and Irad's a terrific rider, but he's going to lower the price on them, and I'm just not a big fan. I'm not sure she'll be third choice. I think she'll be no worse than second choice. And this race where Carey was able to get this perfect trip up the rail on a day that they knew she was going to win, this is going all the way back to September 17th. Master of the Tunes took the outside route, and Master of the Tunes just ran simply the better race of the 2 horses here. And I don't have a big knock on Carey. I think she can win this race. I'm not sure I agree with David. And every time I say that, David Aragona, the morning line maker's right, and I'm wrong. But I don't think these horses are going to be the same price or a very similar price. He has them 9 to 5 and 2 to 1. I think the Lady Mia will be the second choice. And Master of the Tunes, she's just not a horse that gets bet that often.
She's not.
So I have trouble thinking she's going to be second choice. If I'm wrong and David's right, I don't really care between these two. I am married to betting a horse in this race, and it's the number 5 Risk Free. And she is one of the more admirable horses on the grounds who seems to show up every time with those 17 seconds thirds. And I get that she's not a winning type. And I don't really think she's anywhere close to the likeliest winner here. But if I can get her to finish second to either the 2 and 4 here, I can make some money because her turf races are actually pretty good. You look back at that 7 furlong race she ran when she was second to Empathy, who was kind of an interesting horse in that race. I thought she ran well that day. I thought she ran well in her other turf race, looking it up. So I actually think that she's got some ability in the turf. I'm not sure she's not as good, if not better, in the turf than she is in the dirt. And I know she's been running an awful lot, but she's managed to hold her form very, very well. So I just thought at a price, I'd give her a little bit of a throw.
I like it. I mean, I have her third in this particular race, and I agree with you. I think she's really good on the turf and should have the right type of running style. If there's going to be a fair amount of pace up front, she should be sitting kind of right behind
I don't
that.
know how much pace is going to be up front. That I don't know. I think you're right that the pace is a little bit murky in here.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you have to hope that Carey, I think Dylan Davis needs to be aggressive in here. He needs to at least come out running because if Solo Shot doesn't go on the far outside, he's got a problem. Now, if he goes and Solo Shot wants to go past him and speed the pace up, then he can sit. Yeah. But if Dylan takes back at the start, he might be handing the race to Irad on an inferior horse.
I would agree with that entirely.
What is your thing with Catskill humor, besides the fact that you are envious of anybody who has some?
Well, I'm a little interested in this
Like
horse
me,
because you go back to October and September. Some of those fall races were pretty good. This horse was showing progression at the very least in the maiden ranks before breaking its maiden. Then
before beating me in nose for a score? Yeah, I remember it well.
And I'm willing to toss that last effort over the fairground turf. That turf course can be really unique for people who are horses who are not.
You didn't really just say that turf course can be really unique. Weren't you a professor or something, or you're claiming to be? I think somebody needs to check your educational background for declaring that a turf course was really unique.
I'm trying to come up with
even
nice
more
ways
one of a kind
than.
Were there really unique blades of grass on it? How about really unique snowflakes?
We got a lot of those these days. But
she was terrible in that race.
She was absolutely awful in that race. I totally agree. But I'm willing to draw a line through that one just because I've seen horses show poor form at fairgrounds, then move to another turf course and revert back to what they've done in the past. So
I would call it a funky course.
That's the word I was actually going to use, but I didn't know if that was appropriate. So anyway.
Kyle, is funky okay? Kyle says it's okay.
All
He's the guy.
Well, then we're good.
He's our censor on this show.
So I'm just willing to kind of assume that this horse maybe gets back to a little bit of better form now that we're moving back up to the turf course here at Aqueduct.
I gave her a look. I thought she'd have to improve, but I didn't think she was impossible either. And like you, and I always look at race horses. We'll take a break after race 5. You know, it's funny with race 5. Race 5 had the look of a race that if it didn't have, if you made the over/under on scratches in this race, I'm not sure if you'd made it 2.5 or 3.5 because it felt like there was no chance there would be less than 3 scratches.
Yeah.
So the question is whether it would be. And it turned out I knew Capone would scratch because apparently he can only run in 3-horse fields. That's I guess the way it goes with Capone. If there's 3 or less, he's good in there. Otherwise, he's out. I am stunned that both halves of Rudy's entry, that both need the lead, are going in this race. I'm sort of shocked by this. We'll look at Colonel Vargo beating Print Rack, and multiple questions. Are we going to get the same Colonel Vargo we got for David Jacobson?
Yeah.
This was a huge speed track, and I'm not saying this horse was against the bias, but he wasn't right on the front as Print Rack was. He ran down Print Rack, who's very good. Are Print Rack and Saratoga going to get into some sort of duel in this race? As they're both need the lead types, who's going to go, who isn't? What is Colonel Varga going to do switching to a new barn?
Yeah, those are all...
Nothing against the barn, but going away from Jacobson is the problem for me.
Yeah, just to kind of illustrate that point, it's a small sample size, but over the last 5 years, horses coming out of Jacobson's barn and stepping up into allowance races are 0 for 13. So it doesn't give me a ton of confidence in Colonel Vargo.
The numbers claiming from Jacobson are bad.
Yes, just in general, absolutely. And so I, like you, was stunned that both parts of the Rudy entry are in this race, which I think led us, to the same horse in this spot, which is the number 1 Got Thunder.
Well, where else are you supposed to go?
Well, that's the point.
It's either him or Mr. JT for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have Mr. JT.
No,
anywhere.
I don't have Mr. JT.
Go ahead.
Anywhere,
We'll look at
one.
Got Thunder running second on February 9th to my friend David Aragona. Don't watch. You bet him at 28-1. This was one of about 6 horses that he whined to me that my horse beat him at the wire on. He was right, though. This was an unbelievably bad beat. I mean, isn't he just supposed to be tough off this race? But the problem with him is, do you trust him?
Who, Got Thunder?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to trust, but...
Kyle? I trust him.
We do trust Kyle. It is hard to trust him, and he absolutely should have won that last race. And, I even made a comment in my notes. I would have liked to have seen him win that last race at Penn National.
He should have won that race.
Should have won that race. And so that's the hesitation. But like you, I didn't really know where else to go. I wasn't maybe quite as fond of the number 7, obviously, as you, but that was... I just, like I said, didn't know where else to turn, so ultimately this one kind of got the top pick by default.
I cannot take Colonel Varga. I'm not going to start taking him now.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the entry because even if they both go, doesn't Mr. Phil have to go to at least be involved with one of the other 2? So if they rate, whichever one they rate in Rudy's entry has no chance. And I have to think that Mr. Phil's supposed to go. Honorary degree is a little bit hard to take in here. So I'm not really Ryan's cat. I mean, he couldn't win with a perfect setup last time out. He should have won last time.
Yeah.
I'm not a particular fan of his. The one thing I'll say about Got Thunder also is he's not running for a tag. And I think it is interesting because Jacobson will drop him off a cliff. He has no interest in losing this horse. Yeah. So I think that's kind of interesting, and that's one of the things I thought was very positive. As far as Mr. JT, no, I don't particularly love him in here, but I don't know. He's been in some better races. He's been with some decent horses at times. He's off the claim for Rob Atras. I mean, as IRAD sort of hurts your price, but for me, it's just a question of sort of process elimination, who I can't take, and who's left from that are the 1 and 7. We'll see what happens in here. We'll take a quick break. I see Woodbine's opening day today. I just saw my friend Jeff Bratt on TV. You ever go to Woodbine?
Never.
Really?
Yeah.
Woodbine's a great track. We're done with the first 5, the late pick 4 after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
We're back, Matthew and Andy. Thanks to our good friends at Saratoga Springwater as well for supporting us on Talking Horses. Race number 6, the Woodhaven Carson's Run. I'm going to refer to him as a faux Grade 1 winner. These Grade 1s in Canada are not Grade 1 races. They're, all due respect to Woodbine, anybody that's giving a Grade 1 category to a September 2-year-old turf race should be at least a little embarrassed. Having said that, he ran pretty well in here.
Yeah. No, he did. I mean, he's a horse that, and he even ran well in the with anticipation too against Galabrand. I mean, we've seen this horse run well. Obviously, coming off that 9th place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf back in November.
He was bad in the Breeders' Cup.
Yes.
I agree with you. I thought he ran well in the with anticipation. I
Yeah.
thought his Breeders' Cup was a poor effort.
Yeah, it was.
Better horses, but not a very good effort.
No. And now we're getting first start back, in 2024. You would imagine Christoph has got a rather aggressive campaign in store for him. I mean, in
Well, as
terms of
Christoph, he's probably looking for conditional claiming races he can run in or something. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, this
Yeah.
horse ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Yeah, exactly.
And was 8-1. You should definitely be thinking about the big races for
Yeah.
him, depending how far he wants to go.
So-
the son of Cupid.
Yeah, and listen, he's going to be coming from off the pace. There should be a fair amount of pace in this race, I would imagine. So should get the right setup. I just am willing to play against him first time off the bench in 2024. And I ultimately landed on the Bill Mott horse trying turf for the first time, Elysian Meadows. And this is a horse coming out of a couple of Derby preps. I'm not going to make a one-to-one comparison with a horse like Emmanuel, but we did see, we've seen this before where horses that were on the Derby trail switch surfaces and, run a little bit better.
You do know this Bill Mott stat, right? There's a stat, David Aragona, I don't have it exactly if David's watching, though I think he's attending children's birthday parties today. You think I'm joking?
No, I'm not.
He would rather be at Aqueduct. He told me this before the other day, that apparently he was something like 0 for 40 with only 4 hitting the board. And I agree this horse is dangerous.
Yeah.
And stats don't make your ultimate decisions. But first time turf for non-maidens.
Oh, interesting.
Do you have formula in front of you? Look
I'm trying
up
to,
first time
yeah.
turf for Bill Mott for non-maidens and make sure you go with horses that have already started, not first time starters, obviously.
Yeah, 7 for 89, 8%. That's what I got.
First time turf, non-maidens?
I'm sorry, I just went dirt to turf, so I'll do first time
First-time
turf.
turf.
Yep, first time turf, non-maidens. And we are at 0 for 41.
Thank you.
With 4 for 41 in the money.
With only 4 of them hitting
Yeah.
the board. It's a funny stat.
Yeah.
And it surprised me in a lot of ways with Bill. That worries me a little bit. But this horse has plenty of pedigree.
Yeah, exactly. Underneath, there's
Second
a slew
Dam
of
was a
turf.
good little Coolmore.
Yes, absolutely. And so, and has the right sort of running style too for this in terms of,
If you think the pace is going to be hot, which it may be.
which I think it will be, because I think you can look at a horse like the Big Torpedo, who's probably going to go to the front.
We'll get to worse
Yeah.
with me. Let's get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the 7. I have no problem with the 2. I just think that stat from Mount is
Yeah.
actually sort of fascinating. It sort of suggests that he's going to the turf when he's given up on the horse in the dirt, and he says, let me see what I get. And listen, I get it with this horse. Now, on the other hand, he's a New York bred. He can also be pointed towards the Albany. He doesn't have to get that much faster to get to a level where he can run, and maybe this is just an opportune time to take a chance on the turf and see what you have with a horse with some pedigree. As far as Wally World, he's going to have to get faster, but usually they do. Now, the answer is, well, he didn't get faster last time when he was second to Full Nelson. Well, Full Nelson came back and ran 10 Beyer points better, and he's the winner of this race in his next start. The third horse ran a 68 Beyer and followed it up with a 73 and a 76. So there is an argument that that race might be stronger than that Beyer suggests. Time Form US had it faster. And I thought he was a horse that was coming along last year. He's got the prep, which the other horse doesn't have. The other thing about him is he's not quite as slow, maybe, as the number 2 is, and maybe not the 7 as well. He could be a little more forward, because I agree with you, the pace is going to be fast, but you want to see it to believe it. And I think both of us think the 3 words with me, who will show running at 6 furlongs last year, is a little bit of a threat in this race.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
This was a huge effort.
Yes.
Huge effort.
Absolutely.
At 6 furlongs, but a huge effort nonetheless.
Yeah, and you want to talk about a horse with a slew of turf pedigree as well. I mean, everybody in this horse's family has won at a mile or longer on the turf. So,
And Daddy Longlegs could go long, the sire. So
absolutely. So,
But that doesn't mean this is strictly a sprinter.
Yeah,
and this
yes,
horse
yes.
should be mentioned. They entered in the sprint race tomorrow, but they're an AE. And I wonder if they had gotten into that race, if they would have gone into that race, where he might have won, by the way. I thought he had a big chance. But being an AE, maybe they didn't want to go, and maybe they found out they weren't going to do it. I don't really know how all those things work. The pace projector has a fast pace with Big Torpedo chasing him. Is that possible? How could Big Torpedo be in a duel with it? This horse is fast.
Yes, this horse. Well, that's the other thing. I even have a question about a horse like Good Lord Laurie, the
Sure,
number 4,
stretching out.
who's stretching out. I mean,
Yeah,
I think those.
fair.
I would assume that the sprinters are going to be the ones that you're going to see up on the front end. And certainly, while the Big Torpedo is a horse that likes to be up front, he likes to be up front going a mile. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic. We were talking about that earlier in another race, but. You know, even a horse like Ridgewood Runner, you would imagine from the rail is going to want to show some immediacy to get out. And so I think there will be a strong pace for the closers to run into, whether it's the 6, 7, or 2.
I'm always skeptical about paces, but I don't disagree that there appears to be some pace on paper. Race number 7 is a bit of a tricky one, and I was happy to see only one scratch coming out of this race. So I see we ended up with the same horse, which seems odd. Ended up surprised we both did, but then again, we did pick the horse who's the second choice in the line. But why don't you talk about striking speed?
Yeah, this was a race where I looked at, the first thing I always do when I handicap is I look at the pace projection and I look at kind of what the pace scenario is. You'd imagine the 5 and the 6 are going to go out on the front end. Neither of those horses I have a lot of confidence in terms of not fading. And so as a result, I just kind of wanted to look for a horse that could sit that 3rd, 4th position and just kind of benefit when the leaders kind of come back to him. And
Presuming they come back.
Presuming they come back, absolutely. But if they do, then I think the 11 striking speed is going to be sitting in kind of a perfect spot and has the outside post position in this race. So there was a lot to like, I thought, with the 11. And at 4-1 on the morning line, it at least presented a little bit of value.
I thought he ran reasonably well in his last race. Making that middle move at a mile, the big wide middle move before faltering. I thought he showed some life for Rob Atras, who does drop down. I don't love that he's ex-David Jacobson. I found this to be an extremely tricky race. Like you, I do think the pace is going to be honest. And the truth is, with the fast pace, we'll take a look at a First Deputy easily being Mount Travers a few starts back. And this is 2 starts back for Mount Travers and 3 starts back for First Deputy, but the last time he ran a race that didn't have Colonel Vargo in it. And I got to think First Deputy's going to get a lot of pace to run at, but he's kind of the moto horse, and isn't he going to be a short price with Irad picking up the mount? Isn't he the moto drop-down closer in a race pack with speed? Which he may well be, by the way.
Yeah, no, he absolutely feels, feels like a horse that is not going to be 5-2 come post time, particularly with
Even
Irad
5-2, or are you dying to take 5-2 on anybody in this race, even though we picked a 4-1 shot?
Not really. And so, and again, I think while the pace is going to be honest, I don't know if it's going to be sort of coming from the clouds type of honest. So we'll see.
Could be a pretty quick pace. I mean, there's some speeds in here. It's 6.5.
So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, certainly a horse. I just thought I would go.
But you think Mount Travers can reverse on him? Why?
I just saw that last race was encouraging. Granted, it was at a mile.
In a 4-horse field?
Yeah, I know. And so it was one of those where I just feel like this horse has some races at times to go back to from last year, but I do think a mile is probably the better distance. And this is a horse I would strictly be using underneath. I don't see this horse as one that I would want to use, maybe even in my horizontals. I would much rather just use, I'm really kind of all in on the 11 in this particular race.
I haven't forgiven him for not getting second to First Deputy, and I've sort of given up on him, though I guess he's not impossible in here. I mean, Prince James will take money because he won last time. I want to show his race. I don't like him at all, and I see you don't like him. Sorry, Ray. I just thought he took advantage of a terrible scratch-laden field that just was literally dumped in his lap.
Yeah, no, it was. And you also have to wonder, he comes out that 73 Beyer speed figure. He's got that speed figure in the past, but there is some inconsistency here with his form at times, where it's not always the sort of metronome that you'd like to see from a horse in this particular spot. But, we're in the claiming rank, so it's come to be expected to some extent. So we'll see. I mean, that was also in the slop. We'll see. I mean, he's got a good record on the dry fast track, so, shouldn't mind the conditions today at all.
I lost $1,000. I bet that metronome wouldn't be used in today's Talking Horses. I thought Clem Labine was a little bit interesting, a horse that does have some gait issues, but he drops down to the bottom level. I don't love Jacobson on drops, but he is dropping to the very bottom, and if you think this race is going to have pace, I think he's a horse that can take advantage of it. I think this is a race to keep your eyes and ears open and see what the prices look like and see if there's somebody that you think has a chance to win and might just go off at a better price than he should, or you believe he should. This is a pretty interesting race. We don't get a lot of these competitive 10-horse claiming races where it feels like there's pace in the race.
Yeah.
Thought this was actually a very fun race. Race number 8. I think we should start by bringing in the also eligible that gets in first time in forever, who gets in off the AEs. Now, I'm sure that this will make somebody, claim that I have some big East Coast bias, but I do think the figs from California and the turf often don't seem to transfer particularly well here. But I looked them up, and they seem pretty legitimate, the numbers. And, running back against New York breds, he's never faced them before. A very wise move by the connections. I don't like the post, but I like Flavien Prat. And I don't want to completely dismiss this horse. I think this horse is very dangerous getting in from the AEs.
Yeah, certainly very dangerous. And like you, trust the connections with Leonard Powell.
Or dangerous, depending on who you ask.
And Flavien Prat. But like you, I'm also skeptical of West Coast turf horses coming east. That translation just does not always work. And at a short price, I was willing to play against this horse. I mean, I'm using the favorite. So it's not as if, I'm going to some huge price.
Yeah,
but,
now, I was talking to David Aragona about the prices, and just to interrupt for a second.
Sure.
If you add up the percentages here, they're about 150%. Because when you have a horse like the 11, the also eligible as a line maker, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of expect him not to get in, but make the horse the price you think he can go off. Obviously, with him getting in, I think he feels that both he and Overacting, and really kind of all of them, a little bit bigger prices because they're going to take money away from the pool. So we'll watch Overacting's last race and tell me, why did you pick him off of this race?
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, I just thought this was a horse that, we've seen Chad have a lot of success, obviously, during the spring meet and obviously on the turf. That's nothing new. But I just thought this horse had a really nice series of workouts, actually, leading up to the 2024 debut. That's really what I was kind of more focused on.
What was his excuse here?
I don't know if he had an excuse here. I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
But no, it's, the three just kind of went right by. And
okay, I have a very different opinion than you. So and I could be wrong. It's fine. But this horse can't win without the lead.
Oh.
This horse is now won one race impressively well on the front end. Ran extraordinarily well 2 back at Saratoga, rating with a wide trip, but didn't get it done. Should have won that race, but just didn't rate. Manny's just going to send this horse. There's nobody fast enough to run with this horse. And as we saw in that first race, when this horse basically ran off in a rainstorm, this horse can run off and still win. So I have a strong opinion that this is a horse that absolutely needs to be in the lead. So that's the reason that I think that she's going to be tough in here, because I'm not so convinced that she's a lot better than Ragna, who we'll look at here, who you've left out, and I felt kind of embarrassed to put fourth. This was an extraordinarily impressive win by this horse. I mean, she just destroyed this field. I've been looking forward to coming back. I'm kind of embarrassed to have her fourth because I think she could absolutely win this race. And I'll tell you, if she gets lost in the betting, then I'd probably bet her. If she were 7-2 in here, I'd probably bet her.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of what...
I thought she should vie for favoritism with either one of the two horses we've mentioned.
My only hesitation is we've seen this turf course, we've seen several gate-to-wire winners in this turf course. And to your point, the pace scenario, I think the horse, the one is going to go to the front. And this, the 8 is a horse, Ragna, who's going to come from the clouds. And I just don't know if she's going to get all the way there today. So that was my kind of big concern with just the way that the track was playing, the turf course was playing.
You really think this turf course has been playing to the speed bias and the minimal number of races we've run?
It's far too early to draw that sort of a conclusion. I'm just saying that it's nice to see that the track appears to be playing very fairly.
Well, if it's playing fairly, then why would you be worrying about this horse? Speed's doing...
But the point is, I think the 1 is a better horse. And so I think you get the 1 out on the front end, and I think that's the horse that I'd rather bet on.
Okay, so you'd rather take a speed horse in general.
Yes.
I don't think the courses have shown to pay any type of favoritism whatsoever. Doesn't make me right. I haven't noticed that. This is on the outer turf where the rails are way out right now. I think Ragna's very dangerous. We both have the 9 second. Talk about the number 9, Stella Mars.
Yeah, this is a horse that this feels like a horse that Mike Maker comes back with and always seems to run well. I just think in these types of a spot. And a horse that has enough tactical speed to be sitting, more of a tracking trip. And I feel like this is a horse that's kind of danced a lot of dances and obviously 27 career races. I just think that this is a horse that provides a little bit of value at 5-1 to potentially use underneath in this spot.
I think the reason to take this horse is a humongous trainer change to Mike Maker. Now, for what it's worth, trainer switches and turf routes, Mike Maker's just 19 for 136, the $1.25 ROI. So this is not something that's worked out for him. For what it's worth, at Naira, he's just 1 for 5. It was a big priced winner, but they were all big price. They were also all big price horses. This horse has just maintained his form for a long time on the turf. For connections that don't win at a very high percentage, and I thought maybe going to to Mike might be kind of interesting. And as you said, a better price. It's a good fun race. We'll see what happens. Race number 8. Race number 9, one of Christoph's came out. The number 1, which enabled Irad Ortiz to pick up the mount. By the way, in Barron's Bounce, Jose Lezcano suffered a concussion yesterday, a mild concussion, I believe. I'm repeating what Dave Grenick said. So but he's off his mounts today. We wish Jose a speedy recovery. We love Jose, and we hope he is fine and riding again soon. Picks up Irad, but the way Jose Lezcano's riding, I think Irad would say, well, I just have to ride as well as Jose is. He's first time on the turf. I have no feeling for this horse whatsoever. Talk about better lucky than good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horse, I'll probably just go back and eat some of the words. This is a horse that's going to be probably coming from the clouds in this particular race for Christoph coming off the bench.
So your opinion on the track bias depends on what kind of horse, the running style of the horse you like? Is that what we're getting to here?
No, I do think that
BS gets called out here. That's why this is a no BS zone.
I know that, Andy. I think that there's more. I think the 11 is an interesting horse in this race, only because the horse is stretching out from 5.5 furlongs.
He's on my replay list. We can get to him.
5 furlongs, okay. And I just think that's going to create a pretty strong, maybe not strong, but I think that's going to provide an opportunity for the closers to have a shot in this one. So that's why I ultimately landed on the Clement
well, we'll
horse.
get to Courtly Banker in a second, but that's fine. And then listen, the 4 is a very logical horse in here. I think the horse is probably going to be favored, right? I mean, I don't think you need to defend that pick. It's a very logical pick. I'm not sure what to do with Koru. This is the race at Tampa Bay. This horse got a pretty good ride in here. Now, on the other hand, I think that Chad won. With the winner was a Chad horse that got bet. This horse didn't really take any money here. I didn't love the effort, but I won't be surprised when this horse improves off a Tampa Bay performance. But I will say this horse got a pretty good ride in here, which just doesn't happen too often at Tampa Bay.
I agree with that. And
you see the alligator much more than you see a good ride at Tampa.
That was my hesitation too about the Tampa form and the Tampa race. Obviously this horse has has a chance to move forward here. And like you, I wouldn't be shocked to see Koru win. But coming out of a maiden special weight 32 at Tampa at 2-1. I don't know. I was willing to try to play against it and just see kind of where we go.
I'm picking a horse, Saka Shaka, that's not going to benefit from the 11 getting in because I thought that he would be loose in the lead. Oh, yeah. But now I'm not saying he can't win if he's sitting second. Listen, Saka Shaka is an all-or-nothing pick in this race. He's a horse that they bet off the board last time and absolutely stunk the joint up. The pedigree suggests the horse could handle the turf, but does not suggest the horse is supposed to improve on the turf. Right. And maybe they're just going right to the turf because the horse was so bad in the dirt. The feeling is, well, this horse has showed us something. Let's hope it comes out on the turf. I was hoping the horse could be in front. I was hoping for a slightly better price. I didn't love anybody in here. As far as Courtly Banker, I have a very important question about Courtly Banker. The damn Courtly Lark. Did you play Gallop Racer?
I did not. I'm one of the only people who didn't.
I think that, and Richard Migliore was not watching the show. He's too busy laughing with Mitch. But if you were watching, and he would agree, I believe Courtly Lark was the name of the speed horse that always showed up in the big, it was a male, the big race in the end of the year for 2-year-olds. That was Courtly Lark. Anyway, I like that somebody named a horse after a horse out of Gallop Racer. This horse should be the speed, I agree. And there is turf pedigree on this horse on the dam side. This horse is a wild card, and I think it's interesting. Both the 8th and 9th races, interesting horses got in off the also eligibles.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
All right, what else do we have? Oh, that's it.
That's it.
We're done.
We got a Derby draw tonight, but that's it.
You doing that?
I'm doing a live stream on Naira Bets for it. So
really?
Yeah.
I'll be on the subway. I'll hope to be on the subway.
You can tune in.
Yeah. They have live Naira Bets actually streams on the subways, the A train only.
Yeah.
Thanks for filling in, especially at late notice, Matthew. We really appreciate it. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, use the promo code Derby25. Eddie, wake up. Kyle's awake. You should be awake. You are awake, aren't you, Kyle? Mildly. $200 sign-up bonus and a free $25 Derby bet. Derby 25, that'll be good to do at least next Saturday, maybe the weekend. We'll see. We've got Matthew's track stats at Naira Bets as well. You can check those out, and Joel likes them. So if Joel likes them, you should like them. We have a middle pick 4, races 2, 3, and 6 for pick 4s today. We also have a contest, by the way, through Naira Bets, naira.com/contest. I think you have until about the 3rd race to sign up for that. We have a $2,500 hit and split on the late pick 5. You want to opt in for that over at Naira Bets. Hit it, split it. I have friends that have done there. I have friends that are retired and living on islands out in the Caribbean because of the hit and split. Not you, Kyle. That wasn't you. And the show. The show goes on. 2 to 7. Here, Oak Lawn, it's all good. It's all happening. Off just in time to hop on the A train at Euclid, Kyle. We walk in there after the show? No? Okay, you can get a ride with me if you want. Okay. We're done. You're getting started, as is Chris Griffin. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.